Hey guys, John Walker here with L&P Lancaster Online outside of Prana Physical Therapy in Lancaster City today. Here with Justin Geisinger and Charlie O'Malley. Reason we're here today, as student athletes are returning to high school campuses in the coming days and weeks with voluntary off-season workouts, Justin kind of brought it to my attention like, hey, these guys have been out of action for what is the last 4 months. Yeah, they've been doing at-home workouts, but it's a lot different in getting back to campus. And with that comes concern about some injuries. And I just want to ask you that off the top, and then we'll get into some exercise. Just as far as kids returning, what's kind of your concerns there?
Deconditioning. Like, how far off from perfect are they? You know, what have they been doing in these months of quarantine? And it can be a bit abrupt to go from seated most of the day with online learning and things like that back to the field to competitive sport.
And with that, you have some exercises or stretches that you're going to walk us through just to test where kids are at?
Well, we're going to look more about like your readiness to return to sport. Okay. So first of all, we're just going to see like how well does your ankle move, okay? So in this way, also people at home could check and see, hey, are their ankles mobile too? And you may ask, why is that important? Well, if you have a history of a stiff ankle from maybe a previous ankle sprain or something like that, that's definitely going to affect your running form, your squat ability, your ability to push off. So it's real simple. We're just going to use a wall over here. Charlie, if you want to demonstrate. So he's got his foot roughly his fist width from the wall. The ideal is about 10 centimeters. That's the peer-reviewed studies that have shown. And then keeping his heel on the ground, he's going to bring his knee to the wall. And what you'll find is if somebody has either tight muscles in their calf or maybe they're restricted in their ankle, they will not be able to get that knee to the wall without the heel coming up off of the ground. So as you can see, Charlie's game ready on the right in terms of ankle mobility. John, how about you? Perfect. Another thing I should say is, notice John already wants to turn his foot out to the right. There you go. Pointing it straight ahead.
And then back heel down?
Yep. No, front heel down.
Front heel down.
Yep.
And then like that?
Okay. No problem there. How about your other leg?
Yeah, it feels a little tight.
Yeah, knee's not quite against there. Okay. All right. So next up, Charlie, you want to grab the dowel rod here. Charlie's going to show us the perfect overhead deep squat. So this is probably the most comprehensive, challenging, looking at multiple things at once assessment that we'll do. So notice Charlie's got great hip mobility, knees, ankles, everything's looking good, and he's able to keep that dowel rod straight up overhead. Oftentimes what you'll see is that dowel rod comes way forward because they just don't have shoulder mobility to do that, or they're lacking core control or hip strength, whatever the reason, but that right there is what we are looking for. John, how about you? Yeah, can you go a little lower? We'd like to see the thighs break parallel. Good, but notice how far forward that dowel rod is compared to where Charlie was. You want to try and get that straight up to the sky. Oh, way back further. Yeah, that's a little bit harder. So we're going to use this wall again and look at what your shoulder mobility is like. This will be really important, let's say, if you're a wide receiver, quarterback, baseball player. What is that range of motion in your shoulder? For every 5 degrees of flexion that you lose, that's a higher risk of injury. So Charlie, again, you want to show us? He has very mobile shoulders. So now what he's doing is he's got his back flat against the wall. Charlie, can you show us how some people might cheat and compensate and they really arch their back there? And now go ahead and take those arms straight up overhead. So notice his elbows are straight, no problem. He goes straight up against the wall. Yeah, can you straighten out those elbows a little bit more? And I can see daylight there and your low back coming through. Yeah, and notice we got a little bit right there. Yeah. So you might got some tightness maybe in your lats, maybe some thoracic spine restrictions. Any number of things could be limiting that overhead flexion. All right. Okay, now more of a strength assessment here. We're going to go over here to the steps. And Charlie's going to show you the ideal. What we're looking for is just he's able to slowly drop down. So notice his hip, knee, and his foot stay in nice alignment. Also his pelvis is staying pretty level too. So we don't have any kind of a drop.
You have both legs straight, right?
Correct.
Like that?
Yep.
All right, do it one more time.
Can you do it a little slower?
Sure.
Yep.
So you're essentially seeing if this knee will stay straight.
Right. Okay, so now we're going to look at a big medical term here called the Thomas test. That's right, the Thomas test. And this is really just looking at what's the mobility like of your hip flexors. Okay, so Charlie's sitting here at the very edge of the table, and he's gonna bring both of his knees to his chest as he lays back down. Now he's hugging one knee to his chest, and he's gonna let the other one down. And so oftentimes, if somebody is really restricted here, well, he's the gold standard. He's got the great mobility. Notice his thigh is pretty much parallel to the floor, and his knee is 90 degrees. Oftentimes, if somebody has some restrictions in their hip or their quadricep, the foot will come further out, or his knee won't be able to get down where his thigh is parallel with the floor. Yep, and then you're going back down. Bring both your knees to your chest first, then pick one, hug it to your chest, hug it tight to your chest, there you go, and just let that leg relax. Okay, so again, notice we got a lot of daylight underneath here. So how does that feel? Do you feel any tension there on the front of your leg? Now, if I add some pressure there, okay, now you're at parallel. Yeah, so you can feel that. Go ahead and switch your legs. Okay, same thing. As he brings that knee to his chest, notice we're not at 90 degrees here at his knee. If he bends that, you probably feel some pressure. Yep, and then if we add a little bit more pressure here, then he's gonna feel it up in his quad. Maybe at home, take a look, how are you at doing these things? You know, these aren't super complicated movements, but it just kind of gives you a chance to see how far off from you being perfect are you. Maybe you're almost there, but hey, you got that stiff ankle, stiff shoulder. If you need some physical therapy to help you to get it the rest of the way, think about us and hit that new PR for your running time or the longest drive on the golf range.